Hi, my name is Eyal Rob. I came from Tel Aviv, Israel. And in the middle of some kind of a tour, like DJ and speak tour, going on from New York to St. Louis, Champaign, Peoria, Chicago, Cornell, back to New York. And I love pizza. Goddamn, I love pizza. So I must be in heaven right now. Basically, I talk about the place where I come from. I was born and live in Tel Aviv city. I spent most of my life in that city. And I talk about the cultural aspect, mainly music, that's being made right now in Tel Aviv, because Israeli normally is associated with conflict areas and conflict-related things, so everybody has to excuse their existence in that, say, that place or the other, while most of the people that don't give a damn, if I may, I will be polite, about the things that are running through the headlines, and they actually live their own life. And this is exactly what I want to shed a little light on the things that being done in Tel Aviv, which is super tight and cosmopolitan city, where you can find a party and every day and every night of the week, no matter weekdays, 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m. And yeah.
Cool.
So this is basically that, and I'm also a DJ, so yeah, I can spin while I'm there. I think it was the first time that I did a fake ID, but when I was like 14 years old, I think, to get into clubs where the grown-ups can, all the high school or much more mature guys, and it got me into music, because when you live in the city, music is always around you. So you end up going to high school when you know this band came from that high school, and these guys, the other guy, olders, and all the time in the record shop, and you go to concerts, you go to clubs when you're very, very small. I was like that little. And it got me into the point when I obviously I wanted to come up with a band, but I suck when it comes to playing. So I ended up like watching other people DJ, and then all of a sudden it hits me. So I have tons of records at home, so why not like mix that up? And in the end, I end up like mixing up with a couple of friends that we DJ at the same party. So we formed a collective of DJ called Solico, and we ended up producing our own stuff because we want to claim our unique sound and not sounding like other people. And that leads to get signed in the US, in J-Dub Records, the ones who got Matisiao and Balkan Beatbox. So all of a sudden I find myself touring in the States, like jumped in time, for the past 5 years, performing our own stuff. So I guess music is the pillar that my life is revolving around, and love to write as well. I love to write films, I love to watch films, so I guess this is my connecting the dot right now. That's an interesting question, because there is a difference between the things that are being done in Tel Aviv, being like a mini state of its own around Israel. Like there's a segregation process going on between Tel Aviv as a city that was founded long before, like 40 years before Israel was declared a state. And it always looked upon as a city, as a self-sustained city, like city that doesn't have any connection with hyper-reality tension going on in the rest of Israel. However, most of the music that Israeli hear or want to hear, it come out of Tel Aviv. So this is what Tel Aviv is always a city like, you can draw a line between LA and London, New York, Tel Aviv, Paris, London, stuff like that. It's a cutting-edge city. When it could be happening in the city and it takes like 3 or 4 years, then it happens all over Israel, So this is kind of a lab to test the things that's going on, and very hybridic, because the paradox of reality in Israel is like you can inhale in one spot and excel in the other one, and this is a politic statement, So it tends to melt, and all of a sudden, like Tel Aviv being basically the only city in Israel, the urbanic kind of thing. So a lot of youngsters from all over the country come to be in Tel Aviv. So for me, this is the real sense of Israel. This is what I claim, and this speak that I'm talking about. Only that the city that lives in a bubble is basically the true essence of Israel, because a lot of surrogate ethnical groups living together and creating together without any making a fuss out of it or whatever. There are a few things, yeah, a lot of urbanic thing going on right now, whether if it's hip hop or formerly hip hop and now transforming into dubstep and broken beats and stuff like that, and a lot of the things going on. In hip hop, there are main acts that will actually grew semi Beastie Boys kind of like when they represent New York to the fullest. So Tel Aviv has its own crews that was young people that grew up in the city and is born and raised in the city, and they're trying to communicate with or to resonate Tel Aviv within their lyrics and music. By that, if you take hip hop per se, is sampling like unique records that connected to Tel Aviv or Tel Aviv culture, or go deeper into the crates and not normally come up with sounds that try to be like A$AP Rocky or Dirty South or whatever, but come up with a unique sound. So it's relatively small scene because Israel is a very small scale. We make a lot of noise, so everybody think we're huge. If you ask people in India, they think Israel is a major continent because they see tons of Israelis. They can't believe that it's that small. So basically, it's very like integrated. You can do hip hop and you can sweep it into all of a sudden come up and do a thing with a rock band or whatever. Everybody knows everybody at the end of the day because it's a very small scale. So if you're good, you probably end up doing a lot of stuff, while doing your own thing. And a lot of the interesting hip hop actually came from outside of Tel Aviv, from the suburban, because this is the paradoxical kind of thing that you need a conflict to tell a story, a good story. And when you come from a suburban, I'm talking about places like hardcore places, ghetto-like places into the city, so you bring your own story and you find it resonate in the music or in the people within you, and find it with the right beats or whatever. So there is a lot of matchup going on between producers and MCs that came and they all work together, and it's not a movement. I wouldn't say it's a movement, but it's happening, definitely. I think what happened is, and this is only my own opinion, I'm not declaring, although I wrote my thesis around the representation of Tel Aviv in video music in the 90s. You gotta understand that until the 90s, Israel was very monolithic when it comes to communication. There was only one channel of TV, one governmental channel, and a lot of radio, again, governmental supported radio. Not necessarily propaganda per se, it's not like Russian Pravda or whatever, but that was it, And only until the 90s, there come all these channels, Remember, I was a kid in the 90s, and all of a sudden there was MTV. That was like mind-blowing, man. You can actually see music all the time. So a lot of the things that here taken to normal, taken for granted, happens relatively late in Israeli society. So Israel and Tel Aviv, for example, always looked outside. Always looked at the city, I want to be like this, I want to be like that, and it has nothing to do with, I don't want to deal with that, because it's too sun, it's too heat, it's too Middle Eastern, it's too Israel, it's too political. So you alienate yourself from what's going on, which became a self-fulfillment prophecy in so many ways, because you were looked upon as a guy who lives in a bubble when you care about what young people care, and not carry the heavy boredom of reality which hits you every hour. There comes the news, everybody's talking about it, so whatever. So that reflected the music as well, a lot of people in Tel Aviv sang in English because they want to go out and they want to be maybe like and have an imaginary presence of knowing like I'm not here, and I do my art in English because I don't feel comfortable of writing songs in Hebrew and shit like that. So the thing changed in the last decade when it became much more, because a lot of cultural changes happened in Israel and Tel Aviv in that decade, and a lot of different sounds were emerging from the underground, and the other underground, like Mizrahi sound, it became super popular, and all of a sudden people came to fuse that that sounds. A lot of people who grew up by knowing that there is a multicultural, a multi-layered reality when you can see and watch and zap it and internet and stuff like that. So it was normal to them just to pick this, pick that, and fuse it into something else. And all of a sudden, a lot of the Middle East inflects into the sound. And that's where originality came, you know. And that was exactly when you know about Balkan, and you know about Dag Nechash, and you know about Idan Raikel, how they called it here, and stuff like that, because they come up with something that was unique, rather than trying to be like any other rock band, indie, hipsterish kind of thing, you know, because there's plenty of enough here. You don't need someone from Tel Aviv to tell you how to play a guitar or whatever. But if you will play guitar in an oriental way, that's interesting. And a lot of cultural aspects going on throughout the world, you know, and a lot of openness, and obviously with the internet it makes it very easy. So I think that was happening, like if I will sum it up in one line, you know, Tel Aviv start looking outside and begin to looking inside. And moreover to the left, to the right, geographically speaking, and get a sense of the real Middle East. This is the vibe, this is the sound. Again, from people who came from different countries, they feel comfortable of bringing their own heritage into, let's say, hyper-urbanic outlets such as hip-hop, such as electronic music or EDM or whatever. And just to spice it up with the thing going on when they hear at home, with the hear heritage. I'm not talking necessarily Jewish heritage, rather than Arabic in general, Arabic culture, Arabic sound. All this Mizrachit is basically modified Arabic music transformed into Hebrew, you know. Same is happening with hummus, you know. I don't know, I don't want to see. I want to be surprised, you know. When you see, you get expected, you know. I think it's, again, by the huge disclaimer of the city being too expensive right now to live or to create. If we take that aside, so I think, yeah, a lot of, I think the dialogue creates interesting elements, whatever, because if you will keep doing the same, you know, it's stagnation at the end, you know, you just like end up doing the same thing you normally knows and stuff, and it's not evolving. While you mix and fuse other different contradictory elements as if it's a contradiction, and settle that contradiction with sound or with art or with film or with dance or video art or music per se, which is much more easier. So I think that comes interesting, you know, again, from the conflict itself, like a bridge between cultures that could build with music, patience, and what it takes to be, you know, the hardest part in dialogue is to listen, not to talk. So I think when people start listening to what other people will say, a lot of good things will arouse, you know, and definitely, hopefully, I'm an optimistic kind of guy, so I believe in that. Pizza. Eat pizza and make love. I don't know, and come to Tel Aviv actually. Come and see the city. The city is amazing, you know, that it doesn't have to be like only Jewish-oriented kind of city. It has nothing to do basically with Judaism and the classical as being, you know, like as Jerusalem, which is the old biblical city, where Tel Aviv is a totally secular city. When again, it's quite similar to Barcelona, or much more hyper than even New York, you know. So in LA, for example, it ends up at 2 o'clock a.m. In Tel Aviv, you only go out to the party at 2 o'clock.